You're listening to The Secrets of Sacred Art, where we unearth the hidden treasures, history, and deeper meanings in religious and sacred art. We're your hosts, Kathryn Laffrey
and Alix Murray. Welcome to episode 34, Montserrat, Part 2. In this episode, we will explore the art, images, legends of Our Lady of Montserrat and other Madonnas like her. Please follow The Secrets of Sacred Art in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on your favorite podcast app. For a fuller experience, you can join us on the SQPN YouTube channel, where you can see all the images we're discussing on the show. You can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X at SQPN, or on Instagram at StarQuest Network.
So in part 1 of Montserrat, we talked about the monastery and some of the legends and history of the mountain and the lore, all this fun things the guy flying through the arch, crazy stuff like that happens up there.
Yeah.
But we kind of stopped our episode right when we got to the most important resident on that mountain, and that's Our Lady. And this is where we stopped.
Beautiful, beautiful, right? Beautiful.
Isn't she gorgeous?
Yes.
Yes. So I had the opportunity. I was there. This is my picture that I took of her. It was funny. It's like I was taking pictures for this show, but I also was trying to just be in the moment of being there.
Yes.
So I'm glad I'm able to have all this to share with everyone. And I highly recommend, if you have the opportunity and the ability, to go, because being there is amazing. It's breathtaking. So when you get up to her point, and she's above the high altar in this little niche that's set in a way that you can be in the nave at Mass, see over the altar and up above the little canopy that they have over the altar. And you can see her during Mass if you're sitting in the right spot.
Yeah.
And she's, it's amazing. What's really interesting, though, is to protect her and at the same time still let pilgrims touch her. And she's one of the few relics of this type where you're allowed to touch her. And if you look closely at her hand, I'm actually going to take myself off.
Yeah.
Her hand holding the globe is a different color than her other hand and her face.
Yeah,
and that's from all the people touching.
Yeah, kind of like the holy doors. You can see. Yeah, so it reminds me a little bit of when we talked about the holy doors. You could see in certain areas where people had touched, and what people were drawn to, and what people felt they could reach out and touch. And so this is kind of limited because they're directing you to touch right here. But the fact that that people do so and are able to do so really makes it special.
Mm-hmm. And our guide had a little funny joke there where he was like, all right, ladies, just so you know, we do have a lot of women come through here, touch it, and say they got pregnant when they got home. So
there you go.
It's like, okay. No.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how that's something else that it's interesting. Our Lady and how she how she speaks to women in especially when it comes to motherhood. And also I'm thinking about Saint Elizabeth and her experience. And as I'm saying that, I'm looking to the right of Our Lady of Montserrat, and there's a beautiful relief of the Visitation. Mm-hmm. So beautiful. And on the other side, it looks like that's the Nativity of the Lord. Or would
actually,
that be?
It's the Nativity of Mary.
That's what I was going to say. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
One or the other. Nice.
Yeah, you can tell. I have another shot of it where we'll be able to see it more straight on.
Okay.
So that you'll be able to see it follow some images that you and I have already looked at in previous episodes.
Okay. Excellent. Yep. Yeah. There you go.
Mm-hmm. So the area, the throne space that you're in, is, like I said, slightly elevated. This is all fairly new. And outside of this silver, they call it a reliquary holding her, you're going to see beautiful gold mosaic work.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this whole area, like when you go up the steps in the side aisle and you come through these beautiful painted areas, and then once you step into her throne room, you have just gold everywhere. It is absolutely breathtaking. You want to just stand there and not move, but of course there's a whole line of other pilgrims with you that all want to see her.
Exactly.
So you have to keep moving.
Oh,
the stone underneath her, the base that she's on, is actually the stones from the mountain.
Wow. Well, that kind of makes sense. That totally makes sense. And is that St. Michael down there, like a little maybe a bronze relief on the front stone that looks like it might be St. Michael and the dragon?
Oh, between the two red shields?
No, down one.
No.
One down, like on the floor.
One down. Oh, all the way to the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really make it out that well.
Okay, no, it looks
I just know that it's St. George between the two red shields.
Okay, well, it looks like it's it could be St. George, but the one that I'm looking at, it looks like he has wings. So that would be, but you know what? That's like the build up. That's really, sorry, Kathryn, I'm like going off on a tangent here. So
no, that's okay.
So
that's what we do so well.
That's true. But the crushing of the snake, and the ultimate crusher of the snake is at the very top.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah. It like builds in intensity.
Mm-hmm. So I put up here sort of a then and now image of Our Lady. The black and white photo is from probably the late 1880s when there was a big renovation that happened. And I love the staircase, how it just kind of curves you up to her. You have a small little space for veneration and then back down. And notice she's dressed.
Yes. Yeah.
So very popular thing to do all throughout Spain with their statues is they have dresses that will change throughout the year for them.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that I would be interested to know how that tradition developed in Spain, because they've carried it all over the world. In fact, in Norway, I remember at the cathedral in Bergen, we had a Spanish dress for Our Lady, and I always struck me like, why is she wearing a Spanish dress? She's in Norway. She should be wearing a bunad, but nobody asked me anyway. But it was still beautiful. That's a fascinating tradition to do, to dress to dress the statues like that.
Yeah, and if you look to the new one above her in that archway, you'll see on the left side of the arch for us, there's white lilies. And then in the center is a gold crown. And then the right is a scepter, which they used to have her hold. So the lilies used to actually get inserted into the globe in Mary's hand. And the crown that you see was what would have been put on the statue. And then the scepter would have been placed by her other hand.
Okay, wow. Yeah. So these, I'm just so our viewers know, this is way at the top of the image on the left, and you can see the whiteness of the lilies. That's where once I found the white lilies, then I could move across and spot everything else. That's incredible.
So it's only in fairly recent times that you get to see the statue unadorned. So she's just as she is. Mm-hmm.
And would this have been? Would this have been how she would have been viewed at the very beginning, and then maybe this tradition was brought in of clothing her, or do you know? Were you able to find any of that information out?
It's hard to tell. We'll get into some of her clothing and adornment later on when we talk about some of the more details with her.
Okay.
But I want to kind of finish our tour of the basilica. So in this throne room, we talked about the golden mosaics that are around her. The theme of those mosaics is giving her titles. So there's an image of her as Mother of Humanity, which is actually her at the cross and then the words of Jesus saying, "Behold your mother." Beautiful image. And I wasn't able to get that in this picture, but it's off to what would be our right looking at the picture.
Okay.
And then they have Mother of Apostles, which you can see a little bit on the right-hand side. The mosaics there, where there's the group of apostles.
Yes.
Are off to the right side of the reliquary. Yep. And then Mother of the Church. She's also Mother of Catalonia. So she's one of the patron saints of Catalonia, and Mother of the Monks, and Mother of Pilgrims.
There you go.
So just beautiful work.
Yeah,
so then
really beautiful.
As you leave this area, so you step down through some stairs again. Oh, wait, I did have a picture.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. There is, so behold your mother.
Beautiful.
Yeah, another one where you wish you could just stop and stare for a while. Give me an hour or two to pray here, please.
Yeah. Darn those pilgrims.
I know. It's always got to be somebody else coming,
I know.
And you can kind of see at the bottom of the image, well, there's this torch pillar, and then you'll see the archway. That's the stairs that you come up through.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, so many great, beautiful symbols and ideas. I mean, gives me all kinds of good ideas for chalice ball embroidery too.
It's really, really beautiful.
Oh, we need to go back because I wanted to look. So you're right, Alix, on either side of Mary. So we do have the Nativity of Mary on the left, and then the Visitation on the right.
Yeah.
And I would recommend to people go to the Montserrat website and do the visual tour. You can zoom in on these images and just really take your time with it. And it's lovely to see the image that they use where you have Mary reclining in a canopied bed while the what do you call them? The ladies that help deliver a baby.
Midwives.
The midwives. Thank you. While the midwives are cleaning Jesus or cleaning Mary. So I'm not Mary in the bed. Her mother, Anne, is in the bed.
Yes.
And then so
nice.
Very sweet. So as you step down out of the golden throne room, you end up in this area that is painted all over everywhere. Just gorgeous. And you have this archway. And I did a close-up of what's in the archway. And it's sort of a stylized painting of Our Lady of Montserrat. But this reminded me so much of Our Lady of Walsingham.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Totally. And it's the chair. And also the way they're positioned and their gestures. And as you were talking, I just quickly counted the stripes on the chair, and there are 7 on each side here. Whereas in Our Lady of Walsingham, the total stripes are bands around the whole table or the whole chair equal to 7. So I am sure we can think about the 7 sacraments. That's what I think we're probably supposed to be thinking of or recalling when we see that. We have to do an episode on numbers, because that just comes up again and again in sacred art. We really need to think about doing that.
Yes,
viewers, remind us to do that, please.
Yeah. I know we'll kind of hit on it here and there, but keep an eye out when you're in places. Look for certain numbers. And if you see 4 of something, that means you're supposed to be heading out in the 4 directions. You've got the 4 gospel writers. You know,
Yeah.
It's just neat to see all these little bits. The 7 sacraments.
Yeah.
You know,
The 10 commandments.
Stars, the 10 commandments. Yeah.
Yeah. 40
So
days and 40 nights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So behind the main sanctuary is this little chapel. And you can see here the dark frame doors. That's the little chapel that we're going to head into next. And so in this chapel,
Just a little chapel.
just a little chapel, nothing special or fancy.
Yeah.
But this was part of that 1880s renovation. And originally this was just meant to be a cambril. So a cambril is elevated, accessible chamber, and it's there so that images can receive special veneration and you can have quiet time for prayer. What I greatly appreciated about our tour group, and our tour group was just a secular group that wasn't a religious tour at all. He made sure that people knew that and there was those 2 doors in that last image you could go through. If you went through the wooden doors into the chapel, he reminded you of, again, this is a quiet space. This is meant for people to take some time to pray with Our Lady. And when you're done, please come back to this area and go through the other doors to continue on with your tour. But I really appreciated that in any place we went in Spain, they let you know that you were in a sacred space.
Excellent.
And it was beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah. And a lot of people call this like the chamber of the queen and things like that. And more of the gold mosaics are here behind the altar. You'll see Jesus crowning his mother Queen of Heaven.
Okay. And I also can see in the first picture, just above the altar and the archway, you can see the backside of the statue.
Exactly. Yeah. At
Very
one point
cool.
in time that I used to be able to turn. I don't know if it still turns or not. So that if a mass was being said in the chapel, she could be turned to face. Nice. Yeah. And so there's also in here let's talk about the dome.
Yeah.
So
yes.
It's so important when you go into these beautiful churches to take the time to sit down, say your prayers, and then look up. Please, people, look up, because you'll miss everything if you don't look up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Alix, what do you think's happening in this picture?
So this looks like a procession of saints, or maybe, maybe like a variation of Jacob's ladder. But actually, no, I'll take that back because I don't see any angels coming down. But I'm definitely spotting on the left side what looked to me to be a lot of Dominicans heading up to heaven. Just what I like to see.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So,
keep calling out your brothers.
There you go. And obviously the mountain of Montserrat around. Mm-hmm. I love that. It's kind of like it's really cool. It's almost like it's a vision into heaven, but I'm just guessing here. So yes,
no, that was really. I wanted to hear what you kind of thought it was before I went into the description.
Okay. So, yes.
Yeah. So
wait. Sorry. Sorry. I just thought about something. So it's like if they're using the incense and the smoke is going up, your eyes follow, because right at the bottom in the middle, it looks almost like smoke going up. And so maybe the eyes are led up to, you can see the smoke symbolizes the prayer, and we're united in prayer with those in heaven. How about that?
I love that, because, man, I feel that every time I see incense floating up to a ceiling, if there's something up there, you get that connection. And they actually say the mountains are like a connection point between earth and the heavens. Mm. We have Moses up to the mountain to connect with God at the burning bush. And here they get that feeling with mountains everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So this dome painting was completed in 1898 by, forgive my pronunciation, Yon Limona.
Yimona.
Right?
Yeah, Yimona.
Yes. And what he's presented here is we have the Virgin Mary with the child Jesus in her arms, and that's up at the peak of that gathering of people. And then there's a panorama of the mountain. So we have that intersection of heaven and earth. And then along the lower parts, you have a procession of pilgrims. On the right side, they're all ecclesiastical. And on the left side, they're all civil. So
Okay.
kings, queens,
Okay.
and-
Yeah.
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 And the funny thing is when this painting was halfway done, the abbot told him to stop painting because some other artists saw it and said, it's not good enough. And so they gathered together a court of 5 art experts to look over the work. And they decided that because of the difficulty of painting this dome, which is relatively flat, although it looks like it can just disappear into heaven, that it should be classified as a masterpiece of Catalan painting. And the artist was finally allowed to finish painting.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine waiting on that committee? Oh my gosh. And who would say that?
Probably jealous somebody. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. But you know what? The other side of it is in some ways pretty unconventional, but it has elements in it where you can put together what's happening. But in terms of this, almost like, as you said, the panoramic view, that's quite unusual.
Yeah.
And maybe at that time it might have been considered a little too contemporary, a little too modern. And maybe that's what they had issues with. But it's stunning. And I do love how it's like the smoke coming up and it's beautiful. It's
you see that
beautiful.
angel right there between the two processions of people. Almost like leading them, this is the way kind of thing.
Exactly.
And I must say, when I went in there and you're not looking straight up at it, but from whatever direction you're looking at it, like where you are in the world. You feel like the walls of the chapel have disappeared and you're in the mountain. And this is
it's beautifully rendered. Yeah. And this is something that the domes in churches, they are supposed to make you recall like the dome of heaven. And he's definitely done that.
Yeah. And then just taking another look straight on at the altar in the chapel, and especially all the ornate work that goes into the walls and the columns of this chapel. I don't know, it's like, you feel like you're at a wedding. It's just so detailed.
I think it's interesting. You can see like Gothic influence and maybe even a little bit of the Alhambra in this. It's definitely Spanish. The Alhambra in Spain. I think that's where where the Muslims were actually, I think. And they built a lot of buildings there. And you can get that feel as in terms of drawing the geometry of the tiles and things like that. Really recall that. It's a beautiful blend.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's a beautiful blend of influences that make it, I would say, uniquely Spanish, uniquely Catalonian. Is probably a better way of saying it. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh yeah. I don't know much about Spain, but I know that.
Yes. So this was completed from 1885 to 1887 by Francesc de Palar Villar y Lozano.
Lozano, I would say.
Lozano, yes, yeah. And his son. So forgive my pronunciations. So they worked on the chapel, but most of the ornamental detail that was done here in this chapel was by a very young assistant architect, Antoni Gaudi.
Wow.
Gaudi.
Okay. Yeah. Or Gaudi, yeah. I would say Gaudi.
Gaudi.
I think that's maybe that's the English, the Anglicization of his name.
Yeah.
No. Wow.
So, and we will have a lot of fun learning about all of Gaudi's art and his architecture work in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah. So, and I guess, is this St. George, the little statue on the right? Okay.
And it's not a little statue. It's a big statue.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's bigger than life. And
okay.
Yeah. He's there as also between him and Our Lady. They are the patrons of Catalonia.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking one of the ways we can tell it's St. George, patron saint of England, is the colors used in
Did you just try to steal the patron saint of Cantalon?
He's the patron saint. Well, no, the patron saint of England. They have St. George's Day. But it's the red and white. That's where the red and white in the Union Jack comes from. And the flag of England is a reference to St. George. But also, he's obviously a soldier, and you can see the little twist of the tail of the dragon that he's defeating. But we know this is St. George and not St. Michael because St. George doesn't have wings. So
exactly,
putting all these little things together, these little clues that you go, okay, this is who, this is this saint, shall we say.
Yep.
Gorgeous angels as well at the top. Wow.
Aren't they beautiful?
Those are amazing. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. You can definitely see in the artwork around here, there's also that transition from the 1800s to the 1900s. That's really neat to see just that little bit of, what's next.
Yeah.
But as you leave the chapel, you can see it in the map in the center here. There's a little green rectangle is highlighting this outer walkway that's right up against the mountain and takes you out of the chapel. And this whole walkway has all of these votive candles. So you can pick up a different votive candle to place along the walkway. And I put one here in front of this beautiful tile rendition of Our Lady of Montserrat.
It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know what I love? I don't know about if anybody else is like this, but there's just something to me, for me, about walking through hand-hewn stone walkways or passages. I mean, you get it a lot in the castles and old abbeys and things like that. I don't know. It just does something. It makes you kind of feel connected to this place. Yes. Maybe it's because all of these stones were hewn by human beings who came and wanted to create this space for out of love for our Lord and Our Lady. And I think you can just feel it, when you're walking in these, it's the proximity of the stones. It's just, and a lot of times if it's warm, that even helps because it's a little bit cooler and, I love it. I can just see myself walking through there.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly, but I believe that a lot of this is more to the original monastery and basilica or chapel church that was there before you had the French War, the Napoleon War. I mean, this poor place has taken so much destruction and come back over and over again. And also at the Montserrat website, which there's a link in our show notes, there is an incredible set of etchings that were done by some French artists and just not necessarily as artists, but they're there for like just kind of observers and taking note of what was happening. And they said that some of those are the most accurate renditions that they have. And I think they're going to the 1500s of what the church looked like when it was just after its destruction and what was left of it. So it reminded me much of, Alix, what we saw on Lindisfarne.
Yeah. Wow.
So you have a few remaining walls, a couple of arches, and then to be rebuilt over and over is just a testament to Our Lady and this mountain as being so special to the people of the area.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So after you leave this hallway, you end up back in the atrium. And there's another special guest there, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So, Alix, can you tell us about Saint Ignatius, please?
Yes. Okay. So Saint Ignatius of Loyola was the youngest of a family of 13 children. As a young man, he had a great interest in military exercises, and he joined the army at 17 and took part in many battles without suffering any serious injury. But in 1521, at the Battle of Pamplona, a cannonball wounded one of his legs. During his recovery, he read a series of religious texts on the life of Jesus and the lives of the saints. This led to a desire to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. On the way, he arrived at Montserrat. He is said to have prayed for 3 days in confessing the sins of his whole life, then revealed to his confessor at the monastery that he had the intention to abandon his military career. Ignatius maintained a vigil of arms, standing for the entire night. He then made the commitment to become a man of peace, laying his sword and dagger down in surrender before the Black Madonna. Dressed in sackcloth and sandals, he walked down the mountain and arrived at Minraza, where he stayed in a cave for 11 months. Oh, I did not know that about him. And wrote the spiritual exercises, which would become the basis of the Jesuit doctrine. That's impressive.
Right.
Wow.
I was so thankful that a friend of ours, also a Pontifex student, when she heard I was going here, she says, you have to make sure you stop and find St. Ignatius. He was there. This is such an amazing story. The one thing I missed, though, was this little round stone in the walkway. Because I was so busy looking for the statue, I walked right over this and missed that this is engraved with the information that this is the spot where St. Ignatius did his overnight vigil. Oh my gosh. Because now with the renovation the way it is now, at one point in time, this would have been more in the sanctuary right in front of Our Lady. And so this is where he stood his vigil.
Oh, wow. Do you know
that the doorway is... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the doorway that you see above that is pointed out. That's one of the original doorways. And they say that that's most likely the door that he would have walked through to come in to stop and say his prayers. Yeah.
That's just so amazing. But what I was going to say is the whole idea of this military man, this fighter, laying his arms down at the feet of Our Lady. That's something that that happens a lot in history. I just think it's so beautiful. That's something that a number of Vikings, when they converted, when they really converted, they would go into a church or a chapel and they would lay all their their weapons down and give them to Christ. So that must be like a soldier thing. Like you're declaring your loyalty to them as, you're going to fight a different battle, I guess.
And I did have fun going down a little rabbit hole because besides the pilgrimage to Montserrat, you can also do the way of St. Ignatius. And so you can go to Montserrat and then travel down the mountain to Manresa and see the cave where he spent nearly a year of his life.
That's insane. Sorry, it's not insane. It's very holy. Sorry.
And they say still to this day, you can feel the influence of him being there. That it just oozes through the entire town. So It's pretty amazing to think
Wow.
about. So it's another.
Maybe it's kind of like
sounds like something to do.
Absolutely. I was going to say kind of like Assisi. When you go to Assisi, it's such a beautiful city. You can't believe it. You know what I mean? It's like, this can't be real, and it is. It is, and it's because of these incredible saints. These incredible saints. Yeah.
So it was kind of neat to stand where this saint stood. It's like, whoa, that's pretty
totally
impressive.
Yeah.
So we did not have the chance when we were there to get to our next little stop, and that is the Cave of Our Lady. And in the picture where we have that blue arrow on the left there, you can make out the chapel there up against the side of the mountain underneath the blue arrow.
Yeah.
So that's the chapel that's now surrounding. It was constructed, also, I think it was like 1600s-ish, but it has had a lot of damage and reconstruction over the years, and it was survived some serious damage that happened during the French War around 1811. And also some natural disasters too. You can imagine with it being cozied up against the mountain, if you look at the center picture, I'm sure if a piece of rock or something broke loose, you're going to have to do some serious repairs.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow.
And I have to say, thank you to any people that when they go on these trips, think to upload these 360 pictures on Google Maps. And I put a link to the show notes to especially that picture of the chapel on the hillside, because it gives you such an incredible feeling of being there, especially when you turn to look out at how steep the mountainside is, just falling away from the foot of the chapel there.
Yeah.
So I love when people do that. Thank you for all of you whoever posts your 360 pictures.
Yeah. So was this chapel built in front of a cave, or was this like a cave that was in the mountain, or?
This chapel actually is built out to go around the cave where the shepherds found Our Lady of Montserrat.
Wow.
So that's why if you look at the last picture there in the blue frame on the right, you have the little altar, and then notice how it goes to rough-hewn stone.
That's what my question was. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you see all the flowers people have put down on the floor there. Just above where the flowers are, there's a little niche in the wall, and they say that's where the statue was found.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it looks fascinating.
Oh, yeah. But there are so many legends that surround Our Lady and her finding. And some say that the angels had cut the mountains as a throne for Mary. And if you look at the framed picture in red, the etching, look real closely in the center, and on the cloud, you actually see Mary, but she's holding the child Jesus, and he has this bow saw, and they're cutting.
Yeah, I see. That's so cute.
So that old bow saw has become a symbol of Montserrat. It's the serrated mountain. It looks like saw teeth, but it's just such a neat little story. I mean, they actually go back and say that the statue, some say, was Jesus himself asking St. Luke to carve a sculpture of the Virgin Mary, and that she lent St. Luke some of the carpentry tools that they still had around the house.
Oh, and wow. Love that.
Isn't that so neat to think about? It's like, here's some of Joseph's tools. Go ahead.
Exactly.
But then, so how did this carving of Mary and Jesus end up in Spain? And the story goes that St. Paul arrived in Barcelona by boat, carrying the sculpture with him, which he gifted to the local Christian community. And because she had arisen from Jerusalem, some people called her the Jerusalemite.
Oh, wow.
So neat little story. It's just neat to think about all the connections in the land. A lot of times you'll hear people say, well, she's here because there was a cult temple to Venus on this mountain back when there was, the Romans were here, pre-Christian era. And they'll say, oh, yeah, it's near, in our previous episode, we talked about the little St. Michael chapel that was on another spot on the mountain. And there's a lot of chapels around the mountains because there's the caves, and it was just a good place for hermits to hang out and pray. But, it's kind of funny to think that they say, well, Mary's just there because she's like Venus. I'm like, no. Mary is so beyond Venus,
Yeah, as we were saying, we were talking a little bit before this, and I said, because and we're going to be going into this in more detail, but this Our Lady of Montserrat is known as the Black Madonna, and there are a number of Black Madonnas, and they're the most fascinating Madonnas. I love learning about them, but some people do try to make this allusion to, it's just a layover of pagan cults, and this is how to accommodate paganism is making Our Lady like a goddess. And I said, goddess is too small a word to describe Our Lady. She's so much more than that. And
exactly.
And so don't diminish her by comparing her to a goddess of one or even a few things, because she's the mother of all, and she is Queen of Heaven. So much think bigger. Think much bigger than a goddess.
Well, it's interesting, Alex, you brought up earlier when we were in the chapel, noticing that Spanish look where you have that crossover with the Muslim styles of architecture. And one of the stories is that because it's possible, who knows, that she was brought by St. Paul here, so she's been here from the beginning, but that how does she end up in this cave? And they believe that in 718, to avoid the danger of the invading Saracens, that they hid her in one of the caves. And like I said, there's lots of caves, lots of places to hide her. Think about like the Ark of the Covenant being hidden in the mountains, still not found to this day. So she's kind of following that story. And so that's one possibility, that's where she was hidden. But then they have it noted that on a Saturday, I wonder if it was the first Saturday.
Never know. It would be fitting.
It would be fitting. It'd be very fitting. So in 1880, a group of young shepherds saw a light coming out.
880.
880. I did it again. 880.
1880 was a long time ago, but 880 was a really long time ago. Yes.
Okay. A group of shepherds saw a light coming out of a cave in the mountain, and they heard music playing. And when they approached, they saw the sculpture of the Virgin Mary surrounded by angels playing instruments, and they were singing. The following Saturday, the vision was repeated. The following 4 Saturdays, they were accompanied by the rector of Olisa de Montserrat, who was able to record that vision. So it was noted. They were writing down what was happening. So this isn't quite, this legend's a little more heavily weighted. But the picture there in orange, where you see the mountain behind Our Lady, and she's ornately dressed. There she's holding the lily with her orb, dressed in blue and red, like we traditionally see her. Huge crown on her head with the crown of stars around her. And then below her, dressed much like the choir boys of Montserrat are now. You have what would be the angels singing and playing their instruments.
Oh, how nice. I was wondering about that. How neat.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I love that painting. It's such a, I like the layers, layer
Yes.
upon layer upon layer, and the depth, but it's almost the mountain, the way the mountain has been depicted. It's almost like iconographic, the
Yes.
collapsing of depth. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
It reminds me a lot of icons of the Transfiguration.
Yes, exactly.
We had that layering like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was about light, this, that she appeared.
Yeah.
And so then what happened is the bishop of Manresa proposed moving the image down to the village. So let's take her out of the mountain. We'll bring her down to the village. And as they started moving her, she got heavier and heavier until she couldn't be moved anymore. And then the bishop said, this is the Virgin's desire to stay in this place, which is now where the monastery is. And then they constructed the chapel with her, and it became a big pilgrimage center.
Yeah, you can even see, is that the monastery behind her on the right-hand side next to what looks like possibly a Benedictine monk? Okay.
Yeah, because there were Benedictine monks up there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite fascinating to think about, all the stories and everything that's happened. There are some interesting facts, though, to talk about that have been written down. And one of the earliest detailed descriptions of the Virgin by an abbot in 1512 to 1535, he wrote a book. And in the 10th chapter of his Book of Miracles, he describes the image as an old woman with a dark face, very well formed. He also tells us that due to the seriousness it presents, it frightens those who look too closely.
Do you know who this reminds me of? Remember when the fellowship went to Laffrey and everybody could look at Galadriel, but it was Boromir who couldn't look at her?
Oh.
Because there was something. So speak for yourself. Like maybe...
Well,
maybe some people can look at her and not be frightened, and there are other people who can't look at her because they're frightened. And it's because of what they bring, as they said, into Laffrey. It's what you bring there. It's not what she has.
It could be. So another interesting thing was that the Virgin had several gold crowns, but one of them was known as the Rich Crown. And it was begun in 1610 at the workshops of a Flemish monk who worked there through 1637. The crown, this rich crown as it was called, was made of gold. Its rays ended in stars. Look at our picture here, folks.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. The crown contained 1,124 diamonds, 1,800 pearls, 38 emeralds, 21 sapphires, and 5 rubies.
Wow.
That's a crown for Our Lady.
That is. And do you know what? So I'm assuming it's not there anymore.
That crown? I did not see it. I don't know.
Okay, because I know that our dear friend Napoleon, and I say that sarcastically, was notorious for taking treasures out of churches and monasteries and things and melting them down and reusing them for other things. So, yeah, it could be if it's not there.
I just love that there's a painting of it.
Yes, I think that's stunning. And the Flemish were known for their gold work, you know? Do you know what
this crown reminds me of?
I'm going to tell you what it reminds me of, and I bet it's the same one because great minds think alike.
Yeah, and we did a show about it.
Yes, it is the
Go ahead,
altar,
Alix.
the Ghent altarpiece.
Yes.
It really does. Yeah, people should go back and check out that image of Our Lady in the Ghent altarpiece because it does look a lot like that. I love those connections. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so incredible. Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of the Catholic faith. It is one. It doesn't matter how far apart we spread. It is one. It's beautiful.
They're going to be, and sacred art, when it's done well, will have elements that you can be from wherever in the world. And if you see good sacred art, you're going to be able to make a connection with it. Absolutely. That's the beauty of art. It's the beauty of sacred art as well.
And knowing that this painting shows the rich crown, there's a possibility that Mary did have robes that looked like this on the carving itself, because they did have several different dresses for her that were highly decorated, and they were used according to liturgical calendar too. So she would be changed with the liturgical seasons.
I love how bringing her into, in that way, bringing her in, Our Lady into the liturgy. You know, because the altar cloths are changed, the vestments are changed, and so to have her clothing changed as well. I love that, to keep her, constantly in with the worship of God. I love it.
Yeah. So here we have a few images that are in the museum at Montserrat, and also there's an image there of the restoration of the final judgment of Michelangelo, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But there's one bit of information about the statue in Montserrat. They believe now that the statue that's there now is not the original from the old legends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had some work done on it and some testing on it. And instead that they believe that this Romanesque carving came from the late 1100s, early 1200s.
Okay.
And it's unknown when it came to replace the original one. My question is this. If Our Lady wanted to be on that mountain so badly that she got so heavy no one could pick her up, how the heck did they swap her out? That's what
it's interesting.
Who did it?
Well, and there's so many mysteries here, and not like the mystery that we'll never solve in this world, but in this lifetime. But maybe it's a mystery you just don't know. It could have been hidden away again. There's been a lot of turmoil and stuff in Spain and its history. It could, the original could be up in the mountain, just kind of like the original Our Lady of Walsingham could possibly be, and most likely is, sitting in a museum in London. Just don't know where it is.
There is a replica of Our Lady of Montserrat in the Vatican Museum as well.
And when was that one made?
I'm not exactly sure. I feel it was more recent. It's like a gift to the Vatican Museum.
Okay.
I hope it wasn't the original one they accidentally swapped out.
You never know. Well, if it's in the Vatican, it's okay. It could be in the Vatican.
It's in the Vatican. It's okay. Yeah. So following that Romanesque tradition, we see that Jesus is presented in a very static pose. Jesus is sitting on her lap so that she's a throne for him. She measures roughly 95 centimeters or just over 3 feet and is made out of poplar wood. And I wonder what variety of poplar wood that is. Because I know, Alix, you had mentioned in our Van Eyck episode that there's poplar trees that are like here in the States are not the same as poplar trees in Europe or in the Holy Land. There's like different.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you could see like, was this a poplar tree from the Holy Land? That would be interesting. That would be interesting. Yeah.
And then, of course, her skin is dark. Her clothes are golden. And in her right hand, she holds a sphere, which is interpreted as the universe, like a symbol of authority. She is Queen of Heaven and Earth, after all.
There you go.
And then the child holds instead a pine cone. Now, this is going to take us back to our crossover episode on Pinocchio. Remember, I told everybody, pay attention to that pine cone at the end. It's going to come up again. And here it is. Except this isn't our little wooden boy from the movie. This is a representation of Christ our Lord and Savior. He's holding that pine cone because it represents eternal life.
Which I think is fascinating, but I guess it's because it's an evergreen, conifers and evergreens. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you think about the pine cone itself, how many more trees can come from it. It's an everlasting, perpetual regeneration.
Yeah, yeah.
And I find it interesting too because of the strong Roman influence in the area with the Roman temples and other things that were there in the pre-Christian era, that Christ is holding a pine cone. The first thing I thought of was this almost feels like it's evangelizing the area because in Rome, there's a colossal 13-foot pine cone that's been there before the pre-Christian era. So
that's right. I think I saw that. Yeah, I think I saw it.
It's huge. I don't think you can miss it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it was, I don't think I was, I wasn't going there intentionally to see it, but I do seem to recall a really big pine cone when I was there. I mean,
it's always been thought of as that everlasting life sort of,
totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And what's nice is that's something that you could use in pretty much any part of the world where there are conifers because they all have essentially that characteristic. So it would make sense to use that in sacred art as a symbol of eternal life. Yeah.
Okay, so now we need to talk about why she is lovingly called in the area La Morienta. So which means the little dark one. So Our Lady of Montserrat, her skin is dark, but old records show that her skin is light. And a lot of paintings that are done in a way that's not stylizing the image, but trying to represent it, like this painting here that's in the Montserrat Museum. And they have a whole gallery that talks just about her and the image. Talk about the fact that her face was once much lighter than it is now. But they also discovered in doing a recent restoration work in 2001 that underneath the layer of coloring on her face, there's white lead pigment. So they're saying the face could have possibly even been white. And that over the years, there was just layers of candle soot, patina of the paint itself, the varnish, all those things will darken over time, which is why I have the image from the Last Judgment there. If you look up.
Yes. Okay. Now that makes sense. Yeah.
There's the before and after of the lower corner of the Last Judgment after it recently was cleaned. And you can see the difference in the colors after removing the soot and seeing this change in color. Now, this did cause some controversy. Some people thought that, maybe Michelangelo intended it to be darker. Like sometimes artists would do like a black wash, like a carbon black wash to make things look darker or muted. But because of the amount of soot from the candles and that buildup that can happen, that's more than likely soot instead of painting. And even nowadays today, I know I have a spot in my house where a candle was too close to the wall. And you can see the little black soot line up the wall. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And some things that are intentionally darkened like that, you can tell. So in this country, and it could even be in Europe in general, but some of this is going back way back. It could have been carried into the medieval times, but it's something that people notice. Well, I would say especially in some medieval buildings that are wooden or even younger, where people have intentionally put a candle and left a dark mark.
and scraped it and really made sure that that darkness, that dark soot was there intentionally. It wasn't that they accidentally put a candle too close. And if it's something like that, you can tell the difference between intentionality and something that just happens over time. And an artist at the skill level of Michelangelo, when you go in and clean that, you can tell whether or not he wanted it. His intention was to have it dark like that or not. When it's cleaned, because when it's cleaned down to, removing the dirt. It's not removing the pigment. So so he wasn't going to just use soot. I'm sorry. It would have been, there's a there's a reason he probably it was not meant to be that dark. And, but anyway, again, little tangent, sorry.
Because she was called Black Madonna and people, have taken a liking to her in this style and look, is that in the 1500s, she was painted a light brown color. So when they did their study, they actually saw a layer of light brown. And that light brown was actually underneath what was done in the 1800s, which was an even darker shade of brown. So she's been getting painted darker and darker as people do, restorations over the years.
Interesting.
And, it would be shocking to clean her. And I actually have an image that we'll show after we thank our patrons. So Alix, you want to give our patrons
absolutely.
a shout out?
Yes, so we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of sacred art, including Deacon Gregory W., John S., Hans G., Joey C., and Scott E. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of sacred art and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give.
Yeah, thank you, patrons.
Yes.
All right, I have got to share, when we talk about other Black Madonnas around the world, on the left here in the frame is a painting that was given to my parents of Our Lady of Jehovah. And she has a dark face for many reasons. The image itself has been attacked several times. Once with a sword. I believe they tried to burn it. And so you'll see in the actual image, she has a beautiful covering. And I hear that there's more than one covering. Did you know that?
That would make sense. That would make sense because, if she has more than one dress, it makes sense that they'd have more than one covering.
Yeah, but I guess this one's the most popular one. You can actually see it recreated in the painting. But it's funny, I was looking at this closely the other day when I was at my parents' house. And I thought about maybe I should have it restored. Because you can see along the edges where it was once framed on a smaller frame. There's a little bit of a mark there. I was like, wow, it might be good to have it cleaned up. And the first thing I thought of was, no, I don't want her face looking any different than it does now. I'm so used to seeing it this way.
Yeah.
And to see the clothing this way that if it was super bright, I feel like I would be sad.
Yeah. Well, I'm
so used to it this way.
Well, this is, we could have a whole discussion. I call this, a one bottle of red wine discussion where we sit down and we talk about like, sympathetic restoration versus, full restoration. What does that look like? And what do you take away? What do you give? And what was revealed? And all of that stuff. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. If you found someone who could do a very sympathetic restoration, then you want to do these things to preserve it. But I totally know what you mean. Yeah.
Like a gentle cleaning and a restretch maybe, but
definitely a restretch.
Don't mess with anything else. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Look at this. I remember seeing this in your parents' house, and this is a real piece of art. So beautiful. So beautiful.
And it's easy to get lost in all the little details on her robe. But Alix, you've seen the original. You went to Poland. Oh,
I did.
Jealous.
Yes. Oh, I know. And I think if I can remember correctly, because I remember it's very dark and you kind of like walk down into this little chapel where this image is, and it's quite overwhelming. Poland is just what an extraordinary country. And I know, I'll be honest, I have a little bit of a romantic view of Poland. I don't see all of the some of the things that are not perfect about it, because I just get overwhelmed by the stunningly beautiful churches. There's like one every 5 feet, and the amazing food. So when I go to Poland, I'm hopeless. I don't see anything but all the good. They know how to keep me happy in that country. But I
just made my Polish heritage so proud.
There you
beautiful
go.
Churches and food.
And food, honestly. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on Polish food. But I believe this is the same church that houses the heart of the composer Chopin. Ooh, because he was Polish, and I think he died. I want to say he died in France. And before he died, he requested that his heart be taken back to Poland. So I think it's the same thing. But one of the things I wanted to point out about the image of Our Lady of Shostahova and Our Lady of Montserrat, if you look on the left side of the image that has the red frame, on the left side of the icon, really, this is an icon, you see the round orb. And then, and then on the right, you have flowers, not lilies, but roses. And so it kind of recalls Our Lady of Montserrat. There's a consistency there. And I don't know if that was
too.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if this was a conscious, not pairing, or continuity, if it was a conscious thing, or if it's something that just happened because these are these two images have a miraculous element to them. Don't know.
Hey, they both say that they were painted or created by St. Luke. And looking at them closely, on Discord, I'm going to have to put a side-by-side image of Montserrat and this image, the original.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if you look at the proportions in Mary's face.
That's what I was thinking, especially the nose.
Right? Yeah.
And the mouth and chin. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really incredible. Wow. Yeah. Definitely do that.
Yeah. So we have some more ladies that fit our little profile here.
Yes. So this is one that I found, and this is the Black Madonna of Einsiedalen in Sweden. And sorry about that pronunciation. I practiced it earlier today. But anyway, and she also has clothes, but and she, I think, she is, she's always clothed, but this other image next to it is what she looks like, just kind of the wooden statue itself. And what I think is lovely about it is the flow of the garments are so beautiful and so simple. And this is an example of a Black Madonna that was restored. And when it was restored in the 18th century, they chose to keep the skin black. So again, this might have been an example, and I apologize that I don't have off the top of my head all the details about this one. I think this is
like we're going to have to do another episode, Alix.
That's what I was going to say.
Beautiful ladies.
I know. Do you know what? When we were just, Kathryn certainly did the lion's share of research on these Black Madonnas, and I just did a little bit out of curiosity and to prepare for the podcast. But what a fascinating subject! Wow. And so, yes, I think we're definitely going to do maybe more of a deep dive into these European medieval Black Madonnas, because as you said earlier, and we do find this sadly a lot when we're looking at sacred art, some of the descriptions and the interpretations are really not very well done. We'll just put it that way. And so
they're tainted. I feel like some of them are tainted.
Tainted is a way of, or biased in a way that is what struck me when I was doing the little bit of research I was about this is there were no references from the sources were not Catholic. They didn't use any Catholic resources. And I thought, wow, you're talking about something that is such a huge part of our faith, and to interpret what these images mean and how we are to understand them, and to not once reference or look into how Catholics view these things, because the Catholic view of these images of Our Lady are extraordinary and they're beautiful. So I think it's worth doing a podcast on, like I said, the medieval Black Madonnas of Europe, and also look into some really interesting and equally beautiful and some equally miraculous Madonnas that are called Black Madonnas, weirdly, because they're not European, which I thought was a very strange way of understanding Our Lady. So, for example, a Madonna that's from Japan or Our Lady of Guadalupe is considered a Black Madonna. Like, wow, that's kind of strange.
No, it's a kind of a small box to put such a broad example of images of Our Lady.
Yeah, and to put Our Lady in that box. No, sir. No. So we're going to unpack that box and really share with people, as I said, these beautiful European Madonnas, but also really properly give the respect and the attention to some of these other Madonnas from around the world, because Our Lady is Our Lady is Our Lady. And she's our mother for everyone. Yes. So I'm going on a lot of tangents today. So this one is quite interesting. So this is a really great example of a restoration, and was it done well, or what should have happened here? So this is
those are the same image.
This is the same image. This is Chartres Cathedral, which they've just finished doing a 10-year restoration of Chartres Cathedral. I've not been there since the restoration. I was there years ago. Again, a very absolutely worth doing a deep dive into Chartres Cathedral. But they also had a Black Madonna. And so if you look at the first image, the image on the left, you can see where the patina of Our Lady really comes from years of veneration, candles, incense, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So they recently decided, because remember, all of the churches and all of the cathedrals in France are owned by the state. So this was a decision that was made by the secular state to restore the Black Madonna of Chartres Cathedral to what she would have originally have looked like. And when this was done, people were, of course, everybody's outraged because it's France. Sorry, but nobody does outrage like the French. And so there were many people who wanted the restorations to stop and to just have them done, just to fix anything structural that needed working on, but to not change it, not to clean it up, shall we say. And
that's like repairing a house without dusting it. Come on.
Well, this is they were saying, like, their reasoning was, and I actually, and again, like I said, this is like sitting down with a bottle of wine and talking about it.
Yeah.
People were saying, you're erasing the centuries of veneration from this statue. Okay. So you've erased history, the history of the Catholics who had come here to venerate this statue by restoring it as if none of that ever happened. So this is maybe not a very...
those statues where people touch the foot so many times that the toes are worn off. If you
Yes.
go put the toes back on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what some people were saying. And then, of course, other people were saying there was like a racial element to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that's not what it was at all. This Madonna was clearly at one point had European features, which is great because she's in Europe and you're trying to convey the faith to a certain group of people and you want them to feel connected. All of that is absolutely good. And over time, the paint and the wood and everything became black. And it has nothing to do with, don't get that upset about things. But I think they're beautiful both ways, but I kind of love that patina because it connects me with all of those pilgrims and maybe mothers praying for their children, families coming together to pray and ask the graces of Our Lady. And then when you think about Our Lady's presence in France, oh my gosh, so, and so you don't necessarily get that connection with the restored one, but you know what? We've got another 700 years. She can get patina again.
I mean, I love the work that they did on the Christ child's face, because I have to admit, the sooted face on that reminds me of like, a scary old doll you find somewhere.
A scary
like
baby
his
doll.
face clean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he looks much better cleaned up.
Yeah. And of course you can see on the left-hand side, she's wearing clothes, and on the right, she's not wearing any. It's just the statue. So again, it's like it's a little bit of a, it's interesting. You're kind of taking it down, and it's the bare bones, almost scientific analysis kind of thing. It's so much data to take in. Whereas
it's
the
when
one
we try to
left,
deal with it without God.
Exactly. Yeah. But when you've got the patina, and you know what? Life is a little messy. Sometimes your children are scary.
Okay. On that note, let's go on to the next slide.
Yes. I'm not talking about my children. I'm just talking about in general. Sometimes, they can surprise you. Let's put it that way. Yes. And I found this beautiful Madonna. Again, I don't have a whole lot of information about it because I want to save it for when we do a deep dive. But this is the Black Madonna of Oropa in Italy, and her coronation in 2021. And beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, and I have to say that the dark skin and the gold really, one enhances the other. It's beautiful. Yeah. The contrast is gorgeous. And she looks like she's getting a very impressive crown. As she should. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to doing a deep dive onto these, because I think we're going to unpack a lot of information. It'll be fun.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's and something really different. This is one of those fun things where we started off thinking, oh, this is really interesting. And I wonder what information I can get from here. And then when you start just scratching the surface, you just keep going, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Look at this. I mean, so
we're going to be really rabbit holing, aren't we?
Totally. And this is something, and this is the other thing that I find really interesting about these Black Madonnas. There really hasn't been a lot of research done on this. So talk about, we get to dig. We really get to dig. So looking forward to that. Yes.
We have one more lady to share. She's in Spain. And I love this story because it kind of helps you understand the Spanish people's love for Our Lady. Absolutely adore her. So according to tradition, 7 years after Jesus' death, St. James, it says the elder, which would probably be the greater.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Sat by the Ebro River in, help me out here.
Zaragoza?
Spain. Yep.
Zaragoza.
Okay. Yes. And he was feeling really sad. He's all disheartened because people were not taking his message to heart. And they say that on January 2nd in 40 AD, and yes, I know that there's going to be some conflict with that date. There's several different variations of this story. the Virgin Mary appeared to him atop a stone pillar. So this is Mary bilocating. If you think about it that way. You know,
yeah.
Padre Pio was not the first.
I know. I was just thinking about Padre Pio. Yeah.
Okay, so she appeared to him atop the stone pillar, assured him that the people of Hispania would eventually embrace Christianity. Yes, they did.
Yes.
And so in response to this first Marian shrine, it was built around the pillar. St. James resumed his efforts to convert the local population. I love that story. I did not get a chance to see this when I was in Spain. That'll just be, have to be another trip for another time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's beautiful. Beautiful. And that is some crown.
Right? I mean, yeah.
That's when you're
She's the queen, man.
Totally. Absolutely. That's absolutely fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. So that was a fun. Oops. Where are we, Alix? Oh, I messed it up again.
No.
There we are.
There we go. We're back.
Yay! So yes, our little fun adventure to Montserrat, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Go there. I still dream about it. That's crazy. I loved it there. It was fabulous.
Yeah. No, I'd love to go. It looks really cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you for listening to the Secrets of Sacred Art on StarQuest. To find previous episodes of the Secrets of Sacred Art and to send feedback, please visit our visit us at sqpn.com/sacredart. You can send us comments by email at sacredart@sqpn.com. Please leave us a comment on YouTube. Thank you for all who have left us comments.
Yeah.
I wish we could name you all by name. Everything just happens so fast and crazy. So we appreciate you there, and we read them. We love them.
Yes,
we share them and laugh and talk about them.
Yeah.
And then also, please visit our StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. Love posting. Love all the great conversations we've been having. And I look forward to much more fun conversations.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we'll be back next time when I said we're going to be looking at the life and early works of Antoni Gaudí. Yes. Until then, I'll work on my pronunciations. I'm Kathryn Laffrey.
And I'm Alix Murray. And we hope you find something beautiful. Bye-bye.